I felt that I was a New Yorker for a while, now but I have this New York state of mind now.
Oh, oh, nice, nice. Yeah, yeah. I have a lot of questions about. I'm a New Yorker myself. I've lived here since 1987, so
Wow.
obviously I recognize a lot of the locations. But let's go back a little bit because I mean I know you've made a bunch of movies. This is your
Yes.
first animated movie, and it's really kind of it's always interesting to me when a director known for live action switches to animation. It doesn't happen that often. It sometimes happens the other way around, but not that often to animation. So can you talk about I guess finding Sarah's graphic novel and deciding, okay, I'm going to start making animation.
Well, the thing is that I found Sarah's graphic novel in 2010 because I collect wordless and children's book without dialogue. When I received it, I loved it, but I put it in my shelf of wordless books. I made Blancanieves, I made Abracadabra, and I was just in my production office, and then I just took the book again, read it again, loved it as much as I loved it when the first time I read it, but this time happened something at the end. When I was in the last few pages of the book, I started crying. I was so deeply moved by the story of Sarah Baron. And I said, hey, there's something here. I have never cried this way with any graphic novel. So I felt if I want to tell this amazing story with this amazing ending, I have to make an animated film, even if I had never made it before, because there's a story with the protagonist anthropomorphic dog with a robot in a New York made of animals. So I said like, okay, I like challenges and I like risk. So I said like, okay, let's go and do it. And I was lucky that my producers were able to finance the film. And 5 years later, we are here premiering the film in the United States, and
Oh,
before all over the world.
oh yeah. Did you like what did you do once you decide to do this? I mean, did you find an artist and start storyboarding stuff, or like what's the first step for this? 'Cause you have to find an animation house or animation director or something like that.
Well, the thing is that, I'm lucky that I've been working with the same producers for my last three films. So they spoil me. They like me to go explore new directions in cinema. So they were able to finance the film. It's a French-Spanish co-production. And the first thing we did is just to find an animation studio. Initially, we were going to make the film with Cartoon Saloon. Cartoon Saloon is the responsible of Wolf Walker, The Book of Kells, Breadwinner, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, 2D animation studio in Europe. They loved the project. We were about to start the production. I told already my family we are moving to Ireland. They're in Ireland, and then pandemia came, and suddenly everything collapsed. So suddenly the project couldn't be done with Cartoon Saloon. So we were in Spain and we had to make a decision. If we want to make this film, we have to create a studio because we didn't have a studio in Spain to do a 2D project like Robot Dreams. So we got offices, we bought computers, and we had to look for animators all over Europe and create a pipeline because we have to find a process. So the most difficult thing about making this film was that to create an animation studio just to make this film. When the film was finished, we had to close it again, but it was really hard process to make an animation studio.
By the way, do you happen to know Fernando Trueba? I mean, he's kind of in, I don't know if he's in your circle of Spanish filmmaking friends or not, or different areas or
I know Fernando.
oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We had many times dinners and lunch and talk about cinema. Yeah, he's an amazing director, and he's also like a live action director that has made already two animated films. He
Yeah, I
made
know.
Chiquita, and now they shot the piano player. So yeah, but at the end, there's no big animation studios. They're like more like animators, and you have to put them together, and that's very difficult. Especially, it was very difficult in COVID times because people wanted to work on remote, and for me, it was mandatory that people will come to the studio. I wanted to have a contact, even if we all had to wear masks.
Mm-hmm.
I preferred to have all masks and have all this security and all the safety controls, but I wanted to work all in the same space. So that was mandatory in our film, and it paid off. I think all the commitment and all the love of all the artists that they were involved in the making Robot Dreams, you can see it on the film. obviously.
Did you know Sarah? I mean, did you know Sarah from when you were in New York or at all? Or did you like how do you approach her to kind of say you're going to do this movie? And
The thing is that I didn't know Sarah.
uh
I came to meet her to New York in 2018,
okay.
and I found her email at her webpage, and I said, Sarah, I want to talk with you about a possible collaboration. It was not a specific, so we met in a coffee shop in the Lower East Side, and I was like straight, blunt. Sarah, I want to make an adaptation of Robot Dreams. I love it. It's my favorite graphic novel. And she was shocked at the beginning. She had seen my film Blancanieves, which is also wordless. She loved it. And right at that moment, she said, Pablo, let's do it, And she said, I made the graphic novel, now you make the film, because she was not involved in creative decisions of the film, but she was always very supportive, and she's been going through all the journeys. She came to this animation studio, she came to the premiere to the Toronto Film Festival, she came to the Oscars with me.
No.
I'm going to meet her tonight at Film Forum screening. We are going to do a Q&A. So luckily for me, and luckily for her that she likes the film, and that we have a great relationship, Sarah and I.
How faithful did you want to remain to the graphic novel? There's things in the movie like the sledding scene or the bowling scene, which I mean they're wordless, but it's very action driven. It's almost like I can't even imagine. I haven't seen the graphic novel, so I don't know how we would even play out in graphic novel form versus animation.
Well, the graphic novel is very simple, but not simplistic. The film, the story is much more complex, more elaborate. So there are many things that appears on the film that they don't appear in the graphic novel. And I can put examples. The beginning of the graphic novel is when the box arrives with the robot
Okay.
at Doc's house. And of course, in the film, there's an introduction. There's once upon a time in New York City, a lonely dog. We see his apartment. We see how he lived. There are dreams that appear in the film that they don't appear in the book. There are many, many, many things. For example, the last 2 pages of the book is 8 drawings. In the film, is 8 minutes. So there are many things that they're different. But the soul is exactly the same. I really wanted to protect the soul of the book, the theme of the book, what the book talked about. It's the same in the film. So when Sarah Barron saw the film at the Toronto Film Festival, at the end, it was a big success at the Toronto Film Festival. She was in tears and she hugged me and she said, Pablo, I love the film. You told the same story in a very different way. And I agree with her that the story is told in a very different way, but it's the same story. And I think that for me was very important.
What did you use for reference for 80s New York? I mean, I only moved here in like 87, but I've been here,
Yeah.
37 years. I mean, what do you have for reference? Because obviously it's changed so much since that time, or did it not matter that much?
Well, the thing is that this film is a love letter to New York. And of course, my partner, Yuko Harami, and me, we lived together 10 years. So we really wanted to be an ode to New York. So you have to be careful with the details. The first time I came to New York was in the 70s, late 70s. I came many times in the 80s. But when I really moved to New York was to study at NYU, a master in film in 1990. But we know the film doesn't take place in a specific year. It could be 85, 86, 87. So, it has, the New York of that time. I know the New York of that time. So on the surface, maybe that hasn't changed so much. Some of the buildings, the townhouses, the railroad apartments, so the avenues and the streets, but in the details, yes. So we had to be very careful with the details of like the fronts of the stores, the cars, the brands, because there's a lot of like products that appear in the film. We wanted to make a film that when New Yorkers saw it, they said, yeah, this feels like New York. I think the important thing is that it feels, it's a question of a feel. It's a question of a scale. It's a question of like, does it feel like this is New York? And we had a big team of artists working very hard. You know, we were obsessed. This is a period film. This is not like more or less New York in the 80s. Of course, it's an alternative reality. There's no, it's anthropomorphic, they're animals, they're robots, but it has to feel like, you know, like a like a time travel. I want the audience when they come to see Robot Dreams, they time travel to New York in the 80s.
Well, I know when I moved here, they were all humans. There were no animals living in apartments or anything besides pets. So, so that's changed.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's a fable, you know,
Oh
and
yeah,
fable,
exactly.
anytime the fable, the human characters are represented by animals, they're anthropomorphic. But I know when people come to see the film, initially they right away they forget they're animals, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
Totally.
you see that they're, of course, they're human representations of all of them. So
Gotcha. The only thing I noticed, detail I noticed, I was kind of questioning was the First Avenue subway. As far as I know, the Avenue A entrance only was built like maybe a couple years ago, or maybe 5, 6 years ago. That's the only thing I noticed is that like, oh, that wasn't there in the
but,
80s, but yeah,
but the thing is that
it's minor.
it's like it's what you call like film. Like film is like it's not like documentary, so you use it
Sure.
to your convenience. You know, we the avenue that appears the first time that Robot and Dog is like a call it a Second Avenue, like it could be Second Avenue, could be First Avenue.
Right.
The subway entrance is not exactly in the same place. We know it, but it was convenient to
Sure.
for the continuity and for the editing. But you know, we in a sense, but that happens all the time with. But even like when you see like New York films, you just fake it because at the end, if film is not a documentary, it's not a reality, and when you have the power of animation that you can draw things, you can do it to your advantage. But we were conscious about it, you know, that what you're saying.
What's it like working with animators versus working with actors? Because I feel like very different thing as a director to work with like people who are artists and animate people like that versus having to get actors to portray different roles.
Well, yeah, definitely. They're different in many aspects, but they have a lot of things in common. Animators, they're very sensitive and they really know when they're drawing a character a lot about the character, and they always want to give truthful performances as well. They're definitely, one thing is live action acting, another thing is an animated character acting, but the result has to be the same, and the director is to help the direct actors and to help the animators. The way at the end a director, he has like a polygraph in the head and is looking for truth. I'm only looking for true performances. So I work with every actor in different ways. They're not two actors the same. The same, they're not two animators the same. But my obsession with making Robot Dreams is that the animated characters give good performances. So for me, the eyes are the windows of the soul. So I was so obsessed with the eyes of my characters. The same way I'm obsessed with the eyes of my actors. So I'm very satisfied with the acting of produced by the animators of Robot Dreams. I think they did a terrific job.
You mentioned earlier about going to the Oscars with Sarah. What was that experience like? It was kind of interesting because Robot Dreams was sort of a underdog, no pun intended, but it was something, a movie that not as many people had seen at that point. So it was sort of like interesting to do it. And I saw it only like a month or two ago, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This should have won.
Yeah, of course it was the underdog. You have to realize that our competition was Spider-Man,
Miyazaki.
was Elemental, Nimona, which all of those three are gigantic Hollywood studio films.
Sure.
And you have the great master, Miyazaki, The Boy and the Heron, which also is a huge film produced by probably the biggest 2D animation studio in the world. So, you know, we were there because the animation world loved Robot Dreams. They saw the film and they thought that it should have been it should be there. So we were very surprised. You can see there's a YouTube online that the producer recorded when we got the news, because we were just watching live announcing the nominations by the Academy of Hollywood. And if you see the video, we scream and we jump because we were really like, wow. Of course, we were in many lists. We were, there's all these lists of favorite possibles, and we were there. But like us, there were other 10 films that they were possible. Of course, there were like Ninja Turtles, and of course, there was like Super Mario, and of course, there was like Migration. There are many films that they were like in those possible, and then this is like a race. In the last minute, we came like, I would say not only an underdog, like a black horse,
Okay.
really gets there in those five. And it was an amazing experience. I love every minute of living the Oscar experience. It's 1 month of your life, because it starts at the luncheon nominees and it ends 1 month later at the award ceremony. And in between, you do screenings, you do panels. I met the other directors from Elemental, Spider-Man, Nimona. Of course, Miyazaki didn't come to LA, but we really were a rat pack. We really were together all the time. It was a very beautiful experience to share the award ceremony with the other Oscar-nominated directors for animation, of course.
Listen, it's absolutely great meeting you. I love this movie. Have a good have a good time at your New York premiere tonight. I hope people bring kids. This is a movie, like you say, because wordless. It literally you can be like 2 years old, 90 years old, and it works just as well. I think anyone who watches the movie will be like, will fall in love with it. So hopefully people will bring kids, and it'll be like a good, good rollout, good crowd at the
Well,
screenings.
thank you, Ed, for spreading the word. We need you with a megaphone saying "Step right in." This is a film for everybody. It's a film for cinephiles. We premiere at the Cannes Film Festival, but it's also a film for like normal people that want to be entertained, and of course, a film for kids. I had kids in my screening that they were 3 years old, and the grandparents or the parents told me it's the first time that they go to the film. For me, it's an honor that a kid goes to the first time to the cinema, not to sit on the big screen, my film. So thank you, Ed.
That's wonderful. Oh yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, and hopefully Neon can get it out there, because I know Inside Out 2 is coming out in a couple weeks, and hopefully they can figure a way to get it out there and sneak in there.
Well, you guys are helping us. We really were, you're ambassadors of Robot Dreams. So Neon is a very strong independent distributor. So she's going to make this ball grow little by little until, everybody goes to see Robot Dreams.